before I came into this place, I was sitting outside, closing my eyes, thanking the gods, and in turn praying as well. Please save me today. 2 reasons, and he answered me well. First, he dimmed the lights. Thanks, I couldn't see much of the people on the front. I see quite a few in the front, though. It is an overwhelming audience I'm in front of. Teachers whom I learned my skills under, people who polished them. My first job was in Pune. So thanks God for that. Then the second thing is to just get back to Pune. Getting back to Pune after 2004, where I started my work from here after my days at NID, it's a great experience, and thanks for that. Thanks to ADI and everybody who invited me. So let us start with it. So when I was called upon, I was given the word connect. I was thinking about it in between coffees and stuff like that. Then I realized connect is a word that mostly you talk when you're talking about your life. Wow, have I lived my life? No, I haven't. Let me look back at my memory lane and see how much have I achieved. No, I don't want to speak about that because I'm thinking my future is way better or way more bright than what I was doing in the past. So here I am in front of you talking about this company called Carlo, whom I think not much of you would have heard about. It is because it is a US-based design company. So Apsaran, what are you doing there? So that is the talk today. How does an Indian designer running an Indian design firm working and partnering with a US-based design company with philosophies which are sometimes the same, I would say, and most of the times different? Carlo, I don't know how much of you could read it. Carlo is pronounced as Carlo. Yeah, yes, that's what we tell our clients, telling them that we like the way it sounds in our tongue. But there is a connect there between me and the company there. We share the color, passion for the color black. With the color black, you can go to extents to talk about it, but we do have a soft corner there. And putting us in the map of design was one big thing why we chose that name. The second one is actually how inauspicious people feel about black in India, while it is otherwise in the West. So it is a fairly good name, and most importantly, it is a talking point. So we start from there. It is founded by none other than another NID, friends to most of the people who's in the second row, Rajiv Adhikari. He's from NID in the 90s. He did his Harvard. Then he did a stint for almost 15 years at Dell. Most of what we would have seen as Dell products, at least from my college days to now, is under his design team. So let me talk about this opportunity of working with him. What do we do? Those students in the back of the auditorium would know, Apsaran, look at it there. What are you saying? Study, create, and deliver. We've been hearing it every day in class. And why are you here again to say the same thing? This is what I knew about design when I started here in Pune. I was thinking I need to study something, then I need to go create something, and then I have to deliver it to the client. Maybe he'll pay me, maybe he won't. Then when working with Rajiv in the last 7-10 years at Carlo, there are these 2 words again popped up. I remember suddenly Ranjan has told us about these things. It is just that we never paid attention to it, or we ignored it for some reason, or we couldn't relate to. But through work, I will try and relate to these 2 words and strategically put in key areas between 2 words, that is study and create. There is an overwhelming anxiety in students and young designers to put in all that I've studied directly into a concept. I studied this, I do this concept. I studied this, I do this concept. Pause a little bit, strategize, define what you want to do. It's not what you get as information that is important. We call it analysis in a very broad sense. But let us try and be specific in this next 10, 15 minutes. 15 minutes, right? Yeah. Let me put some words in there. Forgive my English, rather basic from a suburban town in Tamil Nadu. So let me word it out for you. Realize visions. What do I say there? Why have I not put it after deliver? Why have I put it under strategize? Most of the time in big corporations, marketing people have visions. CEOs have visions. But why can't they go and communicate that to the user? They cannot. So here we are as a design firm, creating scenarios, creating strategies, or creating visions in 3D or in any other communicatory form so that it can be communicated and talked about with the user. User test product scenarios, pretty similar. Once you do this vision, then you kind of do it. The third and the fourth platform points are the more important ones that I believe at least has a big effect on me, is be the platform for development. How can design be the platform for development? Weird sentence. Let me get there with 4 points. Marketing talks to development, marketing talks to user, marketing talks to the guy who makes the product, marketing talks to vendor, and vendor talks to developer inside a corporate or in any other organization. So here we are as designers, right in the center of the table, being the Venkat of that place, trying to orchestra this whole symphony between all these stakeholders. In it, we gain. We gain insights which we can bring forward to the second level of design. Then the last one is the guard, the development program. Every company has a development program which they need to do to earn their living. Meaning, if a development program goes wrong, your company is doomed. You lose money. So how does design guard the development program? We are in the future. We live in the future, at least in those companies. We keep them open to the future and try to keep their R&D and all that busy with what needs to get done every day. So we create the future pipelines to get into the development phase. That triangle on the right is just for me to talk about, nothing for you to see. But what it puts is user, design, and marketing in the same table and not between each other. We are not between marketing and the user. We are actually with the marketing and with the user. So how do you do all this stuff? With too many projects, okay, one day I go to Godrej, get a project, do it for 10 days, go back, go and do it with somebody else, and then, is that the way we run a consultancy? Another learning, at least working with Carlo, is we have very few clients, out of which the last 2 clients are ourselves. So we have essentially only 2 clients. Big clients, I would say. Dell, as you would know, which I'm not going to talk about at all. I'm going to talk about this other client called Furno. Gentlemen from the US would know them as the market leader in EMS equipment, EMS, emergency medical services. So what am I going to talk today? How does design impact life? EMS is a very gray place. Why? Because you're not sure whether you're going to save the patient. So every single minute becomes important, and every lost time is going to run against you. So here I am trying to do what we do best, because Furno has been our client for almost 7 years now. So we've gone into a much better understanding with them, and we have started involving in a lot of different platforms. So how do I explain EMS to you? This is pretty much, sorry to all the animators and the graphic designers here, bear with our sketches, very rudimentary, but it puts the thing into perspective. Examine is what you do in the hospital, which is at the last stage. Everything that is done before that is actually EMS, which is very important and life-saving most of the time. And thanks to our NID visualization techniques, here you are looking at the stakeholders who are equal, important, equal because anybody falters, what is at stake is life. So what Furno was, our client, was actually in the patient domain and a little bit into the environmental domain, but mostly into the patient domain. But in the last 7 years, we have tried to grow beyond that and try to create all the other stakeholders to interact with the company that we are working for. So the next 10, 15 slides you would see is our journey from how we started from a product to how we went about to create other value chains around the product itself. Radial connect, zoom out to connect more. Basically, we were looking at one circle at a time, growing back, taking in more, pretty much like a black hole. This is a little more complex, yet very simple. So we are talking about personal first. Personal meaning what touches the patient, which is essentially a stretcher. How was a stretcher looking like when we took the job up in 2007, I think? So this is a normal stretcher in the US, very sophisticated stretcher in India. Because it is powered on its own, it lifts its legs by its own, but it's heavy. Heavy meaning for a country, both India and the US, which is heavily bothered by obesity. Just imagine two people handling that stretcher under 100-odd kg of weight on top of it. Over and above it, he's sick. It's a tough job. It doesn't pay well at all. So most of them don't do it with a smile. So there are a lot of those kind of issues. So what was our task at hand? We need to make it only, these were the three small words that was our brief. Lighter. Lighter by weight, so that it is easier to use. Same thing, easier, meaning less, easier more so in a way that not abusable, say, rather than easier. Then the third one is iconic. Iconic from a generic product. So what did we come up with? I have a small video for you to just introduce you to the product. Then I will go over.
Protect me and my patient.
Not just today, but for the rest of my career.
There's got to be an easier way to move patients.
I just press a button and it lifts the patient.
It gets me where I'm needed.
I don't have to use my bag.
Now I can stop lifting.
This will help me stay in this job much longer.
It's going to save my back.
So how long did it take us? 5 long years. Why? I'll try and explain in the next 5 minutes. We started with an aesthetic. We started with what it takes to become iconic. We started with an aesthetic, which is pro-athletic, by meaning overperformance is the ordinary. So it became this. Design kind of touched upon all of these areas, from handles to the display itself, then the controls with a lot of user testing, then lights, which you saw underneath, and then the support frame design itself, which is made out of composite now. So there needs to be more surface, but it needs to be thin. So the side, what you see is a more robust and a thing on the front, but it is much thinner from the other view. So some shots of the same lighting, which in very dark areas that you might be operating in. The display and the controls became very important that we touched upon. One of the things as designers we added was trying to push the envelope and see what other parts of the stretcher could be used for something else. So we added in the accessory rail where a lot of accessories can get attached to. Then this was an interesting one. Marketing had a requirement of visualizing a lot of scenarios of use. How is it that we can use? Any other stretcher cannot do this. To go over a divider on a road without actually changing the flat plane of the patient is almost impossible. This was a very normal one. Everybody would think it would be cakewalk to just step down from the patio in the house, but you can't do it with any other cot, which is not having both the legs independent. So that is when we came, and that is when we made that impression into the client that we can do more than just design. So they came up with this second brief, which no words, no text, only a video. So this is what happens in a 20G crash test or any ambulance that is going beyond 120 kilometers per hour. The medics, the patients go through this amount of force when they hit something. So let me stop the gory stuff. So then design was becoming, how do we relate these inventions that are everywhere and kind of bring them into one cohesive story? So this is Furno's other wing, which is into military, where they specialize in making mounting systems into the ambulance. So they were having walls with a lot of pockets where things were put onto. So is there any way that we could break them into a Lego kind of framework and see where we can go? So that is what we did in the 2 years that we gave us starting from somewhere. We made them into smaller tracks and mounts, and they started growing. Then we realized there were so many different ambulance chassis that we need to cater to. Then we broke them into various zones and started creating mounts to specific zones. And as the God sometimes has in his wish, what saved us the day on a marketing trip was cleanability. With doing mounts and Lego stuff and all that, we can bring all of that down in like 5 minutes for them to just wash it away and then bring it back on. So that is our patient surface. So I would want to close this now. I have more slides, but I would want to touch upon this fact and tell you that what we are trying to do here is be from the company, looking beyond through design, and not thinking that you're not part of the company and you are a designer who's from the outside going to tell the company something. So at Carlo, we try to design experiences rather than just products. With that, I would want to stop my thing, and if I have another minute, maybe I would want to run one last video. Yeah. One last video. This was a fun shoot that we did after the stretcher was made, and we wanted to show the capability of it. And this is Jim West from Furno itself. He's the head of marketing, and that is his son, who's an 8-year-old. So the video kind of shows how this 8-year-old is going to load his dad, who's more than almost 7 and weighs more than 110, into the ambulance all by himself.
No.
I don't know whether you'll be able to hear it. What it does is, actually it's not rocket science, it's just that 4 wheels always touch load-bearing sides every time you load. Oh. Yeah, so it's as easier. Thank you.